This is the Round 2 podcast with Galen Parker and Stephanie Nicole, where we talk to big thinkers, big dreamers, and big idea havers. Quitting and failing are not the same thing, and we're going to show you why. Ladies and gentlemen, it is exciting to be back. You wanted us back, and we are back now. Maybe you didn't want us back, but you got it. This is episode dose of the Round 2 podcast. I am your co-host, Galen Parker. I'm joined by my co-host, Stephanie Nicole.
Hey,
Stephanie,
everybody.
say hello to the people. I love it. We're still working on your hey, everybody. We're trying to build it up. How was your weekend,
good,
Stephanie?
You know, went to church, prayed about some things. What about your weekend?
Very good. Very similar. Saturday I went to worship. I did an open house with one of my agents on Sunday. Did like a 12 to 4, like way out in like Western Henrico. If you guys aren't in the Richmond area, it was like down Darbytown Road. Had a gang of people come out there. It was really cool. I talked to a guy. The guy was talking my ear off. We were exchanging information. He's not looking to buy until like August, but I need money in August. So I'm gonna stay in contact with that guy, because with real estate, you always have to stay in contact with pretty much everyone you meet. So that was fun. I'm ready for this coming weekend. What do we got? Like 7 days until the Super Bowl.
Counting it down.
Very excited. I'm ready. I got my calendar out. But guys, if you are just tuning in for us, do me a favor. Don't do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below so that you can stay up to date with all of the things that we will be bringing to you, whether this is on Podbeam, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Tunes, Podcast, whether it's going to be on YouTube. You're going to want to keep up with this information because we have been dropping gems. If you caught last week's episode, we talked a little bit about the incomparable Stephanie Nicole and how she got into real estate. I thought that was a powerful and important episode for anyone who's trying to figure out what they want to do as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a boss, because it's real. It doesn't always go the way we thought it was going to go. There were some struggles in the beginning, but she obviously worked for her. And then we also talked about legacy. What do we want to leave behind? Stephanie, I think you said your legacy, you wanted to be a household name in real estate. And I was like, you better talk to someone. And hopefully all your lives, today's Wednesday, you got Wednesday coming up in a couple of days. You have a live that you do on Wednesday nights. Tell them about that, because I think people should know about what do you do
I go
on Wednesday
live
nights?
every Wednesday on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at Stephanie Nicole RVA. And we just have, weekly interview with people who are killing it in the business space, and, having them come in front of everybody and, just give some advice and, knowledge on how to get into whatever they're in.
I like it. So look at that. They're giving you free game. I've tuned in a couple of times. There was a lot of people who were doing wholesaling. There was some people that were just like buying and flipping. People were doing insurance. It's a lot of good information. So we hope that you view this podcast very similar to that. So since last week, we talked a lot with Stephanie about just kind of what she does. She thought, after we did like our end of the episode recap where we kind of talk about what we thought about the podcast, she thought, we should talk about you, Galen. This was kind of, mind you, this was after she said I was weird, which I definitely agree. Anyone who's ever met me will think of me as kind of a weird person. And I own that. I talk weird. I probably dress weird. Everything I do is weird. It's going to be different. It's going to be off a little bit because, frankly, wealth equals weird, right? Zuckerberg.
I don't want you to use the word weird, but you're definitely different.
You said the word weird.
Different from the average.
All right, I'll take different.
Not just man, but like average man, average black man. It's like you kind of just own your personality and you are who you are, no matter what.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think I've had teachers describe it as dancing to the beat of his own drum. That's me. And like some people are like, that's cool. Some people are like, man, that's unusual. So it is what it is. So we're going to talk a little bit to maybe why I became so unusual. So what are some questions you have for me? I'm ready. I'm limbered up. I did my stretches this morning. Shout out to YouTube for giving me a stretch routine, working out these hip
can you share a little bit about your journey in real estate and how you got started?
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Technically, if you want to get real technical with it, my journey in real estate started in 2004-ish. Because so here's how that started. I was at VCU, and under my electives, I took a real estate class. And so I think technically for you to get your real estate license, you have to have like 45 credited
Mm.
study hours. Well, through that class, I had 30. And I always thought, man, if I get my next 15, I can become a real estate agent. But at that time, I just wasn't really ready. I was, with 21, and I'm like, what was a 21-year-old going to do with selling
I'm
real estate?
about to
I
say
wish I
this.
would have known now because there's a 21-year-old on my team who's crushing it right now. Shout out to Quincy Bradley. Follow him on social media, but Quincy Bradley is crushing it. So I wish I would, but I just didn't have that drive. I had like a major death in the family, so I was not able to focus on stuff like that. But it was always in the lingering in the back of my mind. One of my close friends, she was a real estate agent. She helped me in 2009 with the purchase of my first home. So she always said, "Man, you've got the personality to be a real estate agent," which I never understood what exactly that meant. Basically, it just means you talk a lot. You'll talk to everyone. When people say like, "Man, you've got the personality to be real estate," it's because I just talk a lot and I always try to make friends with everyone I go. So, fast forward to let's say 2017, 2018, my best friend, who was not my best friend at the time, he's my best friend now. He was in real estate. He was crushing it. He was the number one agent at his Remax brokerage, and he was just basically saying, "Hey, do you want to get into real estate? I could use some help. I need some assistance." And I was like, "Man, no, absolutely, absolutely not. I like having health insurance. I like, all of these things, these comforts that I just thought I could not envision getting if I was in real estate." So I said no. I said no, and you've talked to me over the past year or so. You know me well enough that one of the things that's always bothered me about a 40-hour job is the thing that you guys are probably pretty familiar. It's called
Hmm.
PTO. It's paid time off, and basically what PTO is, if you're a young person, you don't know that it says that if Stephanie is my boss and I want to hang out with my friends or family on this day, I've got to come up to Stephanie and say, "Hey, can I hang out with my friends and family today?" And she could say, "No, you cannot. No, you can't spend quality time with your friends. You need to be at work." And that always bothered me because I was like, man, I just can't handle that. So that started weighing on me. The job that I was doing, we were working for a Fortune 200 company. We were doing warehouse supply chain management. I was on flights, traveling different places. It just started getting a lot, and I was like, this is not me. This isn't. I wasn't becoming the person I wanted to be. I couldn't do anything creatively. It was just kind of like boring. I loved, and I can't underscore this enough. I
Mm.
love the people I work with. I still did deals with them today. I still meet up with them for happy hours and dinners. Everyone's been in each other's weddings, so that bond was close. It was just the job, and so I finally got my real estate, my license. Even the day of getting, this was kind of like a funny story. The day of getting the license, I on my lunch break. It's one of those. It was one. The time of year was just like crazy cold in Virginia. Here, it does not get very cold. I'm from New York, but down here, it does not get very cold. You don't get a lot of ice, and so of course that is the week that we got it. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a half day. And so, hey boss, can I leave half day today? Can I have this time off? And they were like, yes. Go outside, go to my truck, flat tire. I'm like, all right, not too bad. Flat tire. I'm gonna go just put my spare on. Guess what?
Wow.
Those flat tires. I had two flat tires. I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to be there? And if you guys know anything about real estate board licensing, you've got to be there at time. It's like a scheduled time where your test starts. So I go back in the building. I reach out to my old supervisor. I'm like, hey, Kim, do you mind giving me a ride someplace, but you can't ask me any questions about where I'm going or why I'm doing it? And she was just like, okay, sure. Cause I had built up enough, social capital with her that she just kind of trusted me. So she dropped me off there. I get in there, I go to take the test. I sit down in front of the computer screen and I just said to myself, there's no, we ain't doing redos. We're not doing multiple tests. We're not doing any of that stuff. I was like, I got one shot. I felt like Eminem. I got one shot to make this work. I was like, I'm gonna take this test. So I went all the stuff. I started doing my calculations, triggering the old memory because I got a pretty good memory when it comes to stuff like that. Started triggering all that. Thing was like, you've passed the national, you've passed the state, you've passed. And I was like, so I called my best friend. He did not really know. So I was like, hey man, what are you up to? And he was like, no, I got an appointment. What are you up to? And I was like, I just passed my real estate exam. And he's like, let's go. He's like, after this appointment, we're gonna go out and we're gonna have some dinner. We're gonna have some drinks. I was like, I don't have a car and I need someone to pick me up. And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yep. He was like, all right, hold on. He went and canceled his appointment. It was probably like a listing appointment. He canceled his appointment, came pick me up, and we went out and celebrated. And that's how I knew he was a real one too, because that cancellation cost him money, but he was just like, I'm good. I'm good for it. So that is how I got into real estate in the beginning.
Yeah, that's good. So, just going back to like what your personality type, I feel like you're very high energy. I feel like you are when I say different, it's just you
I'm not
are
offended. No,
more. Like you're kind of
I
like
know I'm different.
silly sometimes. You like to laugh, and I feel like when it comes to specifically black men and men in general, it's like you have to have this tough persona. Like, how did you get around having to feel like you have to be tough or serious all the time?
You know, it's funny. I always joke about that. I used to go down and volunteer at the Bonaire Juvenile Correctional Facility, and if you Google that, there's like a documentary on that place. It's basically like gladiator camp. It's
Mm,
baby jail. And I used to tell them, I said, why are we acting so tough? What has this ever got us? What benefit have we ever received? If you look at like school pictures, you always see the guys looking
yeah,
no one can smile. I think one of the things that helped me was my mother was just she was 10 toes down all the time for her boys. She called us her princes. She built us up. She made and my mom, she was doing stuff in the 60s that was just like crazy for a black woman. Like she went to college. She was getting her interior design degree. She stopped college because she wanted to take a larger role in the ministry. So she went from Queensbridge, New York to South Carolina in the 60s. Yeah, in the 60s, a group of black girls went to the 60s and started doing ministry, door to door ministry. So she was always telling us like what we could do. You know who you really are. You are a
I
prince.
love
You are smart. You can enjoy art. You can enjoy like my brother did. He did musical instruments. But what's also really cool was we grew up around cousins. I have probably like 9 other male cousins. We're all within 4 years or 5 years of each other. So it was okay to just be around. Like you could see different aspects of the man, the kaleidoscope of who we are, personality types. And so that was really cool. So I always felt comfortable in my own skin because one, if anyone ever like picked on me and said like this is the big one, like talk white, like people hear that, oh, you talk white. I never had to worry about that because I had like 7 other dudes that were like, "What'd you
it.
just say to my little baby cousin?" And they're like, they weren't about them games. So I was like, I don't have to be tough because these guys, they are not smiling in the pictures either. These are my cousins, and so that was very helpful. My mother, I'm a first generation son of immigrants, so I think if you're an immigrant kid in this country, you do wear things a little bit different. Your perspective is a little bit
Right.
different.
All right. So our podcast is about second chances and going like a round two. So can you give us a moment where you felt like you got a second chance or opportunity to pivot, like as it relates to your real estate career?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember my first year of real estate. Things were pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. And that wasn't my first year. It was probably that was my second year. Second year was pretty good. First year was pretty good. Right around that third year, there was a small incident that happened locally. It was called a
Mhm.
pandemic. I don't know if you guys had heard about that. COVID-19. I don't know if this rings any bells. That hit really hard. And for real estate agents, there was just a lot of, I don't know what is going to happen. The courts couldn't process any closings. Sellers were like, I don't want people in my house. Me as a buyer's agent, buyers like, I'm not going out of my house. And so they were trying to like run you around doing like virtual showings and stuff like that. And my business was like suffering. I was like struggling. I didn't know what to do. Was feeling so much anxiety. Thankfully, what helped me was, after praying and talking a lot, I had some money saved up and I was able to cover my bills. I struggled through that, but I was able to keep things going, right? Then I was like, all right, it started opening up. You were able to do a little more flexibility, but it was like I felt like I was starting my business all over again. Trying to find clients, trying to find people, explain to them how the new process, the new normal would be. So I just started doing open houses like crazy. Every weekend I'm in an open house. Sometimes I would do two. I'm anti. You hear a lot of people talk about open houses. They're like, do 5 open houses a weekend. I'm anti that because it doesn't make sense for the process that I do when it comes to like circle prospecting, door knocking, putting up the right amount of. You just can't do that if you're doing 5 of them. You're just going to do one really well, or you can do
Yeah.
all of them just kind of like okay. So I would try to do one or two. So I would set those up, and then if you came into, I've got an episode on Mega Agent Academy on YouTube where I talked about my open houses, and I said I dazzle when it come to the open houses. Like, if you came into my open house, you thought you were coming to a family reunion or a baby shower. I'm like, I'm happy. We're talking. I'm holding the babies and stuff, and we're going like looking at different aspects of the house. I'm showing. You would have thought I lived in these places. I was trying to just engender myself, and it was working. People were like sensing the energy. I remember very particularly there was a guy. I'll just say he didn't look like me. He looked kind of intimidating, and I'm just like, okay. And he looks in the open house. There's a bunch of people. I see him looking at me, kind of looked like he was like ice grilling at me. And then he goes and sits on the porch and just chills on the porch. And I'm just like, what, this guy's waiting for the house to empty so he just has me alone. And I'm like, what is about to happen? So like people leave and he comes in and he was like, hey, and he just nice guy. He's like, I'm looking to buy a house. I'm listening to you talk. I like your energy. And I was like, yes, thank you, very nice. He was like, my wife, we're moving here from West Virginia. I don't know. I got a job here. I'm staying in a hotel. My wife's back there. He was like, can you help me? And I'm like, all right, well, what do you think about this house? He's like, I don't really care for this house, but I need someone who would help me. He's like, and I was like, well, I will definitely help you. And so I got them. They live in where they live in, like across in like Walton Park now. So that was like a good experience, but that like was all of these little experiences kind of built me up, and that helped me kind of turn my business around to the point where, let's say this was probably August. By the time I came to the next year, March, I had made more money in that next year, those first four, no, it's April, those first 4 months than I had made at my full time job the entire
Wow.
year. And I was just like, talk about, I felt like I turned it around. I thought me and the big man, I thought we turned it around because I was just like terrified. But it just really underscored something that I'll never forget. It's like sometimes you just got to work hard. If you're broke, pick up the phone. If you're anxious, pick up the phone. If you don't know what you're gonna do with your business, like, pick up the phone. Just start calling people. The more conversations you have, the more appointments you set. The more appointments you set, the more closing you have, and that's just how it happens. You just have to have a high volume of conversations, and that's what I was doing at open houses, and that's how I was doing at Circle
Okay.
Prospect. So
So I do think that
round
addressing
two.
mental health is important. So can you share like your personal experience or observation about something or like the unique mental health challenges that specifically Black men face?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big now advocate for mental health, and that's not to say that I've
Right.
conquered that hill, but I'm still working on it. I try to find. I remember I was trying to find a therapist. I was trying to find a male person of color therapist. Finding that is like finding a unicorn. They do exist, but if you've ever gone to therapy, it's not just finding the person. You got to like
Yeah.
click with the person too. So it's like, all right, so finding the person, like, so I wasn't able to find them. I found a lady person of color that, to me, that helps. And when I tell people like a person of color means support, it doesn't mean that they're better. It's just that for you, you know yourself well enough that you're going to be able to identify and talk to someone. There's certain struggles that you have that you need someone else
Yeah.
who's going to understand that. So, and I tell people all the time, especially men. I'm like, do not be afraid. We are carrying around a lot of trauma. And the problem with men of color is that we are kind of institutionally trained to swallow
Hmm.
this pain. When things happen to us that shouldn't happen to any young children, we are told you don't talk about it, you swallow it and pretend like it didn't happen. And there's a lot of guys running around with like this anger and pain, and they have no way to voice this. There's no pressure relief valve because they're like, I don't talk to nobody. I don't talk to cops. I don't talk to my family members. I don't talk to my
Right.
teachers. I don't talk to nobody. I'm just going to hold it all in until it forms a ball inside of my stomach and kills you. Right. So I learned. And so I've got some buddies where we talk about, you like, hey, go get a therapist. Here's how you do it. But it's not just men of color, it's men, period. So when people ask me about, I'm always like, oh yeah, I see a therapist. Yep. Because I need one. I know I need one to maintain a positive mental attitude. It's just like any other muscle. So if you wanted bigger biceps, you're going to go to the gym, right? You're going to go and work that out. And if you can't get the results that you want, you're probably going to get a trainer. Well, that's the same when it comes to your mind. It's like you need someone who's going to challenge you, because sometimes the questions that your therapist asks you, you're just like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to engage in this. But the reason why they're asking is because they're helping you build things up, because they're not going to always be there, but it helps you to think through certain instances, certain situations. And that is what helps me maintain kind of like a positive attitude as much
Right.
as possible.
Okay, so we're gonna switch the speeds here. I want to know what your biggest goal is, like, and I don't want it to be something that, people are expecting. Like, what is your dream?
Okay. My
Dream.
dream. Wow. One of the things that I think I liked about you, because you said it like when we interviewed, you said you wanted to be a household name. And that resonated with me because I liked that idea. Now, as much as I like to talk to people, I have not really warmed up to the idea of being famous due to some of the things that I do with social media here in Richmond. I've had like strangers come up to me, not strange people, strangers come up to me and say, "Aren't you so and so?" And I'm like, yeah, like I feel a little bit weird about that. But what I've noticed though is that you can have the ability to impact people's lives in a positive manner and just see them like just soar. And I think that is something that appeals to me that I want to do for a positive way, and you can do it in such like minimal ways. Like if you've ever like complimented someone at the grocery store about like their what they're wearing or something they did, or I love to do it when it comes to like parents. Like if I see a parent and their kids are well behaved, I'm pulling you aside and be like, listen, I was like, your kids are awesome. They're so well behaved because that
Right.
comes from hard work, and that really makes people like. If you follow my TikTok a couple of months ago, I had this video where I'm in my car and there's a girl. She pulls up next to me, and I'm like, what in the world is she doing? She's trying to parallel park, and she's trying to parallel park with it, and she's struggling a little bit. So I get out and I'm looking, and I'm just like, doing one of these like, you got a little bit more, and she gets in there and she looks and she's got this biggest like smile on her face, and I start like applauding. I'm like, you did it, good job. Now I joked about that's just it's something I do because I'm 40, but I was trying to let them know like you did a good job, and she had the most beaming expression on her face for like the rest of the day. So I think you can impact people. I want everyone to do it. Just give a stranger a compliment. The best one is giving another man of color a compliment because we
What?
never get compliments from people. So they'd be like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh man!" I was like, "Oh, that I like that. I like that suit, that jacket, those shoes. Oh, that's that watch. You got that watch on, boy. I don't act like I didn't see it. Build people up. Like they just like the bravado drops. The ice girl leaves. They're just like, oh man, thanks. I mean, it's just something I got. Just build people up by that, and like that is my thing that I love. That's what I enjoy the most.
Yeah. So can you tell us how you stay motivated and energized in the real estate world? Because it looks cool from the outside looking in, but we both know how that is.
Real estate is a job, and every time a new agent comes to me and says I want to get into real estate, I say congratulations. I want to be supportive of them, but it's a job. You started your own business, as you know, so you've got to work at it. So for me, it just really I've got to fortify this. So I read the Bible daily. I listen to podcasts. I try to increase just my knowledge of things so that I can speak, pretty accurately about things. I try to just do things even before I even get out of bed. I was telling you before, what the first thing I say to myself every morning is the snooze
Yeah.
button is for chumps. It stops me from like, oh, like yeah, we're all tired. Get over it. You just got to get to going. So I get out of bed. I open up my tablet, put that on the ground, and I go to like a stretching routine. I do like that. Sometimes it's 8 minutes. There's one that's 15 minutes, and I just go through like stretches just to kind of like shake all that out. Then I get in the shower. I jump on my team huddle in the morning, build each other up. All of this is just trying to like build the positivity and just like we tell each other like affirmations. I am the best at everything I do. I will be the selling warrior that my family needs, not just now but also in the future. You try to just keep yourself going. All of those things help me, and I still struggle. Obviously, click back to 10 minutes ago when I said I'll talk to a therapist. So I still struggle, but all of those things help me. And then the power of the smile is something that I really hold on to, where it's just like, feel free, sometimes you just got to smile it out and just like, all right, it's not so bad. This morning I was like feeling anxious just about like work. So I like left my house. I had my jeans on. I put on some like Reebok crosstrain and I went for a mile walk in Glen Allen. I was like, all right, before I get on these phones, I'm going to be on there. Let me just go for a walk. And as I was walking, I said, things are not going the way you want them in life, but you got your health, you're taking deep breaths, you're trying to your best. So it's like, hey, put a smile on. And I felt so much better coming back into that headspace of working by doing that. So these are like the little things that I try to do to keep that positive
Yeah.
smile.
So I know that we are limited on time. So I wanted to see before
Mm-hmm,
we
mm-hmm.
left out, can you tell us any lessons that you've learned from your experience and drop like a quick little gem that you believe for the
Okay.
people?
All right. I'm gonna leave what I've learned, my lessons, Gem. Then I got a question for you. This is gonna be the question
Okay.
of the day. One day we'll have a producer and they'll like do voice work for that. But one, I always think that it's very important to pay close attention to how people treat you and how you're
Mm,
treating yourself. I do not. People say treat others the way you want to be treated. I treat others better than the way I want to be treated. And if you do that every day, and if you're not afraid to be meek or humble, you will be
yeah.
so successful. And so I try to treat other people better. I try to lift them up. So when they deal with me, now they're just like, oh man, he treats me so well. He talks so nice about me. He's always complimenting. That's how they treat me. And if they don't, then it's a problem with them. There was a mentor that I had named Al McLam, and one thing that was funny about him is that if a person said they didn't like Al, everyone would immediately be like, "Oh, there's something wrong with you."
I know that's
It was
right. That's
never
how I want
him. because he had that impact. That's how I want to be. I want to like I was like, oh, if someone's oh man, I can't stand Galen. That people are now they're like,
That's what I say
you
too.
don't like
Galen,
Galen?
you
It's like
sure we the same person?
I was like, yeah, yeah. So that is, to me, it's like never be afraid to be that person. Don't ever let the world's conception of how you should be this tough guy, or people are going to treat you negatively regardless. So you can't internalize it. You just have to continue to give out positivity. So I tell, pay attention to how they treat you, but how you treat yourself. Don't ever internalize the negativity that people will never inevitably give to you. That's my gem for people, and keep following along with us for these next couple of weeks. We're going to be more gems. Here's my
Okay.
question of the day for you, Stephanie and Nicole. All right. And listeners, you can answer this to yourself. Would you rather throughout the day be able to go back in time in 15-minute increments 10 times a day, or would you rather be able to go forward in time for 45 minutes for 5 times a day? Which one would you rather do? Go back 10 times for 15 minutes, 15 times, 15 minutes for 10 times, or go forward 5 times for
I would
45
most
minutes?
likely go backwards in the 15-minute intervals just because I haven't lived it already. So I feel like I would be correcting, not saying correcting mistakes, but once you do something, you can do it again and it'll always be better. So that's my thought process. What about you?
Nice. I'm going back. I like because sometimes you've ever put your foot in your mouth.
Yeah,
I know I have.
no, I
Maybe
have.
I'm the only person that's
I'm
ever
like,
done
can
it.
I?
But if you could go back, yeah, go run that back and be like, oh, maybe I should say this. Or sometimes you say something. I know for me, I used to like. I still do. Me and Jerry do this. We write down like funny like stand up skits that if we did
Yeah,
stand up, what we would say. Sometimes I've been in places and I've said stuff in a joke and it didn't land, and I'm like, oh man, I should have paused this or said like I was like, oh man, I wish I could get this back and say it again to get the laugh. So I'm running it back, and you could imagine the decisions that you would make if you knew what was going to happen. Financial decisions, people interaction, dating, all of those things. If
so
you could run it
a
back just a little
little,
bit, just a
yeah.
little tweak. Yeah, I was like, man, you could be tweaking all day long. So that is the question of the day. Thank you guys for staying with us and listening. If you want more information or if you want to join Stephanie's live on Wednesdays, Stephanie, what remind them again? What's your social media on
It is
Instagram? What
at
how can they
Stephanie
reach you?
Nicole RVA on all the social media platforms. And what about you, Galen?
I on Instagram, you can find me at the Galen Parker. It used to be something else, but the Richmond Association of Realtors made me change it. But it is the Galen Parker, even though they didn't make other people
Listen,
change it. So I don't
we
know
gotta
why
take
that
them off.
is.
They're gonna
But
have you take the video down.
I know they're like, don't say it. Like, I'm just kidding. I mean, you guys are wonderful. I appreciate you so much. That like, I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. But guys, this is the round dose podcast. This is episode 2. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to like and subscribe. We will continue to bring you content, information, experiences, interviews that will let you know that despite what's going on in your life, through hard work and dedication, you too can
And
overcome it.
I'm
My name is
Stephanie
Galen Parker.
Nicole.
This is Stephanie Nicole. See you guys later. Bye bye.